all of a sudden I've got 450 something megabits down and around 9 or something up with this thing, and the coverage is plenty for the house. And so when the anniversary came around last April, I guess it was, I decided, well, hell, I'll pay for it, and we'll see what happens. And I think it's $10 a month or something, and I'm very happy with this thing. Yeah, I'm paying a little bit per month, but the big advantage to me is that if anything goes wrong, or I need to upgrade it to the next 3.2 or whatever it is, I just take it back to Cox and hand it in. So I think I'm going to stay with this thing because it's really, really good.
About a year and a half ago, I got a DOCSIS 3.1 surfboard modem, and to replace the one that we had. And I just took it down to the Cox store on Broadway, and they scanned it in, and I came back and everything was, and I plugged it in and it was already authorized and had no trouble setting it up or anything. That was the easiest thing I ever did.
Yeah, Comcast has the same thing. And luckily, I'm only about 2 miles away from a Comcast store in a shopping center that I visit at least once a month. So if I got this new modem, the 3.1, I would just wait and take it over to the Comcast store and have them scan the barcodes and come back and just connect it in, and it would just work.
And you don't even need to do that these days. You just plug it in. You try to access the web, it goes to their website and asks you, do you have a new modem? You say yes, and it walks you right through 5 or 6 steps and you're in.
Wow. Now that's the kind of thing that I was talking about when I said that they're really trying to cut their support costs. No human need enter into that transaction except you. So
if you look on YouTube, they even have a couple of videos that walk you through the process.
okay.
Yeah, and Jerry, another thing is if you download the Xfinity app on your phone, it makes it even simpler. You just go to the internet section, it says add new modem, and it walks you right through it.
Okay. I don't have Xfinity, unfortunately. I had to take their previous generation cable box, and because well, it's a long story. Anyway,
Well, Comcast is Xfinity.
well, I understand, but there's the very latest Xfinity box, set-top box, which does all this fancy stuff.
Right, that's their
just talking
X1
about.
system.
Exactly. And I have the predecessor system because that's the only thing that would work with my particular TV setup and the TV setup that is over here at the old folks' home. So I may have not protested that enough, but that's what I got.
Kevin, I do have a question about the Xfinity app. When I tried to get that all set up, it was asking me for an email address. So I entered in my Xfinity address, and you can't use an Xfinity address for their, I guess, for their security, 2-factor security. So
Do you have 1Password?
no.
Actually, you know what? For 2-factor, they prefer that you use a cell phone for that.
Okay.
And just give me your cell number. I turned off the 2-factor.
Yeah.
I believe, let me double check. I could.
Yeah, I got the impression that they were asking for both a cell phone and an email.
No, it's one or the other. So like if you wanted to look at, if you were Logan White at Comcast.net and you're logging into Logan White at Comcast.net,
Yeah.
they can't send you an authentication code because you need that to log in to see your email.
Yeah,
So it's kind of a double thing. Yeah, I ended up taking off the two-factor, and they want you to use their Xfinity app as the two-factor, which is royally a pain in the neck. It doesn't work right.
Why am I
So-
not surprised?
Really.
You know, if they would do a standard two-factor where you can use like 1Password or any standard authenticator, it'd be easier.
Or the whatever, yeah.
yeah, what upset me was that Xfinity didn't advise me that this was gonna be a problem. I just had to find out by myself.
Yep,
Then when I called them in, they gave me a real bogus reason for why I was having problems.
yep.
They are the hardest people to get decent tech support from.
Yeah.
Do you know the secret on how to get to their, to get somebody to help you with Xfinity?
No.
Please enlighten us, Kevin.
You're gonna love this. You call them up, and when you get to the voice recording and ask you what you want to help with, you say disconnect service. And then they'll ask you if you want to disconnect due to a move, and you say no. And within 3 minutes, you're talking to a live person.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Hit them in the wallet. They'll start listening.
That
Kevin,
seems to be what it takes.
I used to be able to go to Chase Bank using Google Chrome, and now it doesn't recognize my computer, but however I use Safari. Do you know why that's going on?
You may have to just clear your cookies or your cache in Chrome.
Oh,
And is everybody aware of what Google has done this month?
Well,
if
how
I-
have they shafted me this month? Yeah, what
They
is
are
it?
gonna start, they are starting to require two-factor authentication for email. So if you, and you're gonna have to use non-Apple. If you want to use the Apple Mail program, you have to get what's known as a one-time password from Google, but you can't get a one-time password until after you turn on two-factor authentication.
And once you've done that, do you have to do it every time?
No, what you do is you get it's like with iCloud, you get a one app specific password. And then you use that password to access your email and anything else that needs to access that Google account.
Every time?
Well, you put it in once and it's there. You know, it's
Not
not
every
like,
time, Kurt.
yeah,
It's just like with Apple. I've got several programs that required this funny kind of password. But once I enter it in, it never bugs me for it until something goes really bad. And then I've got to go through the whole rigmarole all over again. But that's less than once every 3-4 years, maybe even more, not more often than that.
yeah, things like busy contacts and busy cal
Yeah.
require two-factor
Yeah.
or app specific, I should say.
Well, I see somebody new here. Josh, I think that, am I correct in thinking that you are part of the Blanchard dynasty?
Yes, he is.
Josh, your mic is muted. I wonder if you're away from the computer.
He might be. He is very interested in art and design stuff, particularly on the computer. And so I encouraged him to join us tonight because of Lucian's presentation about Procreate. So
Okay,
he
he
said,
just,
oh yeah, I'll be there.
He just got into the chat. He says he doesn't have a mic plugged in at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, you're still welcome, Josh. Glad to have you. Are there any other questions?
Or gripes. Seems to be a good night for griping.
Well, I'm going to have a tale of woe and intrigue during the main meeting that I think has a good resolution, but we'll see.
I'll gripe about why the hell can't I get a decent machine that's is on Apple Silicon and without paying a jillion bucks like
Like Ridge did.
Ridge.
We won't tell Debbie how much that thing cost.
Well, it was about 4.
And
Yeah,
are you
well,
sure
who-
you don't want to adopt a few?
However, I was able to take advantage of the retired military government worker part of the Apple Store. So I
Right.
saved about $450 that way.
So you brought it down to 4.
Right. Well, no, that's about, I guess, 3,500 all told,
Okay.
about.
Well, I agree with Kevin. You could adopt us.
I second that
Ridge,
motion.
Ridge, what did you get? I got the 1 terabyte with 32 gig.
I got the 1 terabyte was 64
64, okay.
and the
And the Ultra.
and the M1 Ultra.
He could show it to us, but he can't pick it up.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember what I got, not the max top one. I got the first one. What is that? I can't remember what they called it. The M1.
Pro, the
Pro.
M1
Max.
No, Max.
Max.
It's a Max.
M1 Max, okay. And then you
I
got the
I
Ultra.
went for the Ultra.
Just
Well, the
remember,
Max, I
all-
couldn't
computing
type any
power,
faster with the Max.
And as it runs, it runs ice cold because of the 2 fans and heat sinks inside.
Yeah, the big copper heat sink that they had to back up a truck to the house. Come on back. Come on back. Eh, eh.
and just remember, if you add,
We lost your audio, Kevin.
Might be due to the fact it looks like your mic is
Okay,
very
yep.
cheap.
is this any better?
Yes, we can hear you
Okay.
now.
What I was saying is, if you remember, or if you think about it, all of the Apollo missions, the Skylab missions, and all the space shuttle missions, and all the computing power combined on all those missions, and the M1 Ultra is still faster.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And with the earlier missions, you probably have more computing power in your watch.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's 64K Apple ones.
Wasn't it Microsoft has said, who needs more than 640K of memory?
Right.
Yeah.
Boy,
Are
have
you
we come a
having
long
any-
way.
Are you having any problems getting equipment? I was listening to a podcast and they were complaining about not being able to, it was all on back order or something along that line.
Yes.
It took 3 months for my Mac Studio to get here.
And you ordered it like minutes after it was available, right?
Right after the March keynote.
Yep, I think I'm gonna have to warm up the Apple credit card. Order one for me.
Yeah, Bob, you actually do some useful work. That's another thing. I have trouble with feeling guilty about buying a huge bohunkus machine like that. And the most I do is get on to email and produce Nestagram emails for various things that I don't like.
So after the Ultra, you have the Apple Bohonkus.
Right.
Yeah, that's the next one.
You know, I think back in my Atari computing days, and I spent more on a clone Atari computer out of Sweden than I did for my Mac Studio.
I think the
Back in
video
like,
toaster that worked on the Atari was more than the studio.
Yeah, I mean, and those were 1990 something dollars. So,
Yeah.
you know, we got spoiled with what the cost of a really good machine cost today compared to what we paid for some pretty serious junk.
Yeah. Well, always happens when you're first to the market
Yep.
in
Yeah,
a
the
lot of
early
ways.
adopters.
In a lot of ways, it's really to your advantage to be a laggard. Let other people do all the beta testing and encounter all the oh no's and so forth.
That was very polite, Jerry. Oh, no's. Usually it's O and then the next word starts with S.
Right.
And I remember the good old days of beta testing when Apple would send you hardware to go with that software to test.
I even took advantage of the Amazon sale on the 16-inch MacBook Pro with an M1 in it. I got the M1 Pro model, and its maximum RAM was 16, and I got the 512 hard drive, and it's a very satisfactory purchase there too.
You find that 512 is big enough for you, Reg?
Oh, yeah, because I don't really do that much anymore.
Yeah.
So 512 is fine, and it lets me do a super duper backup to a 512, so it works pretty good.
Looking over my notes from WWDC, there's one thing that I noted that seems like it's possible that could really help us out at meetings. And that is in Safari, the shared tab groups. It might be possible that if somebody has a demo that's going to touch on, 3 to 5 to 7 different websites, if they could share the tab groups with everybody, then they could see it closer up and better. So, I don't know if that's going to happen or not, or how well it's going to work. Anybody else have some favorite thing from the keynote that you want to talk about? We've got another 10 minutes.
Well, what does everybody think about the M2?
I think the M2 is a good follow-on. It's certainly not, it's not so far above the M1 like the M1 is above an Intel chip. It's a good way to go, and when they come out with the Mac Pro that has 4 or 8 or 12 M2s, that's going to be one heck of a machine.
Yeah, but the M1 Pro is still faster than the M2, so.
Right.
But
Yeah,
there
I
is
have a
no
friend that
M2
ordered
Pro
one.
yet.
Yeah. Well, you got to compare apples and apples. If the M2 that's out, that was just introduced, is really competitive with the old first introduced M1. And that's what you really should be comparing it against.
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, a friend of mine had gone down to Simutech and ordered a M1 Pro laptop. And I suggested he wait until after the keynote, but he didn't. And then it does appear, though, Rene Ritchie and others have had some pretty good explanations about, the M2. I figure it's because it's low power. Maybe they tried to put an M1 in that box and it just ate up too much battery.
Could be, yeah.
I don't know. Any theories, Kevin?
No, I just think they're just getting ready for the next architecture. But I think the Apple would have been better off waiting and introducing an M1 and an M1 or an M2 and an M2 Pro at the same time.
Hmm,
Maybe.
Yeah.
Because the only advantage of an M1 or the M2 over the M1 is it gives you 24 gigs of RAM versus 16, and that's not a significant upgrade.
Doesn't it
Um,
have twice the bandwidth from RAM
Memory
to the
bandwidth.
processor?
Not double,
it
50%
does,
more.
but it's still limited.
It's
If you
still
look at the
slower than the M1
benchmarks on
Pro.
it, it's not, even though some things are 70% faster internally, the benchmarks are only going up 10 to 15%. And that's stuff
Hmm.
that we saw in the 68,000 days, a 10 or a 15% bump.
What did you say, Tony?
Yeah, it's not double the bandwidth. It's 50% more bandwidth. I think the real change is the hardware ProRes. So the M2 Air is now capable of doing more of the video, low-end video stuff, with hardware acceleration. So if you're planning on doing video editing, the M2 Air may now be a bit more capable than the M1 Air.
Right,
But-
but that also goes to the memory portion of it. You're going from 16 to 24 because you're using 8 gigs for memory for the video. So you're not really gaining any performance issue there.
Yeah, and it's really just for that specific
Uh.
use case of doing video editing on the lowest end machine you can find.
That's gonna help a lot of kids.
Nah. Kids should be doing homework. You don't need that type of speed for Microsoft Office.
One of the
Depends
things,
on what their homework is.
Go ahead, Kurt.
one of the things that interested me is this Stage Manager thing where you're able to put your open windows off to the side. Is that an iPad thing only, or will that be available for the Mac also?
It's
Both.
my understanding that is iPad and Mac, but limited to M series processors.
Right, yeah.
And it
Both.
works nice. I like it.
Well, a new iPad is in the works for me here at some point, and so an M1 will be there, and I'd be able to do it. But that's iPad. I'm just wondering if eventually they're going to get around to the Mac. But it sounds like yes, but so
Yeah, it's
Gotcha.
it's available on the Mac for M series.
Right.
And I think that it might be helpful for, a 13-inch notebook, but perhaps less practical for me with dual monitors.
I don't, the way the Mac handles Windows, center stage is nice, but it groups windows. So like when you resize things and then you put it into the side, it does all the open windows go into the side. So then if you want to select Safari, it opens up every window that you had open when you minimize Safari the first time. So it doesn't do it per application right now. It does it in groups. And that takes a while to get used to.
okay, that doesn't sound right.
Are
Well,
you,
it's
you
also-
running it, Kevin?
It's also
Yeah.
1.0.
I got it on my iPad.
How do you like it?
It's not that buggy. I mean, I use my iPad more for entertainment purposes, for listening to music and playing videos. So I don't do any real work on it. So I haven't had any problems with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was wondering if Spaces would go away, but apparently Spaces is still there.
On the Mac or on iPad?
On the Mac, on both, well, on the Mac anyway, that you can still have your virtual desktops and have Stage Manager running.
Yeah, what I
is-
find Have you ever used a, an app called, HyperDoc?
Heard of it years
Wh-
ago, a while
What it
ago.
does is when you move your mouse over an application, it shows you all the open windows within that application. That works 10 times better than Center Stage is gonna work,
Do you
just
mean
from
Stage Manager?
experience.
Center Stage or Stage Manager?
Stage Manager,
Right.
I'm sorry.
Center
It's
Stage
getting
is
all these
where,
new terminologies.
Yeah,
Center Stage is where, when you're on the camera and you go like this, it follows you over.
yeah.
Yeah, they got that, Facebook started that thing with their, what do you call that thing? The Facebook monitor,
Portal.
the portal.
Our Facebook expert, Roger. Okay, if there are no other questions at this time, I think that we will take a break and come back at 7. Welcome, Doriana. I see that you have just recently signed in. Hi. Oh, she's eating something. That's why she put up her static picture.
Right.
And no more questions. Well, we'll see you back here at 7 o'clock. Toodaloo.